I knew I forgot something, but I didn't know that. All right, now I do. Got to plug the mic in if you want it to work. Anyway, what's up, Mr. Coffee? Thanks for the update. So that's a good idea to plug your mic in if you expect it to work. It doesn't work. It's on a Bluetooth. Good evening, chaps. Okay, Sunday simul tomorrow. I might stream. What I was saying when I was muted was maybe I'll stream an hour and a half Blitz tomorrow from like 12 to 1:30. Gotta stay in the game. You carried 5 men. It was what the wife carrying contest, wife carrying tournament. Sorry, I can't see from over here. Welcome, guys. Analysis stream Thursday. We've got 5 games, and heat. It's hot again, huh? We're getting that European heat bubble. I had to turn the air conditioner for my guinea pigs downstairs. I think they're getting a little overheated, turning purple and whatever. So I should bring them on the stream. I was just thinking I should bring one of them on the stream again. But last time, she pooped and peed all over me. I hate that, you know? That happens at the wife carrying tournaments too. All right, we've got Rudolph the Red-Nosed against Astrobate, Yefim Geller against Josef Vatnikov, Senseg against Gallardo, Mario against Will Skinner, and Reduce against Helio Blobus. All right, we'll take these one at a time. Obviously, that's how we do things here. Guys, don't forget, World Senior, I'm registered. Italy, October 20th to November 2nd. Your donations will go toward that. Our World Senior donation bar up to 1676.66, 55.89% with 65 days to go. So it's only 2 months away. 2 months. What else? I'm in training. So, if I win the World Senior, I'll put like a Facebook post that says, "Thanks Slaggy for the training. Thanks Slaggy for the physical training." I can just thank myself for everything. I'm my own physical trainer and my own chess trainer. So I'm a one-trick pony. We've got World Senior 2025 analysis stream today. Anyone else wants to submit a game? You have to be a subscriber. Arsenal fan, you are permitted. Usually you will oftentimes submit a game, so you're welcome to do so if you would like. And anyone else who's a subscriber is welcome up until, maximum of 10 games. We've got 5 already. I've got Astrobate first. Thank God we got the air conditioning in last month because I would have died in this. All right. Astrobate, let's start with your game. We usually save Mr. Slow for a second. Save the last bullet for yourself. We save Mr. Slow's submission of Geller versus Vatnikov for a second. Then Stenseg, Yul Skinner, and Redusa. And Arsenal fan rated rapid game. Really? Oh, this is like online. Copy. Not rated. Online rated. All right, we got 6 games in the hopper. I know you've been taking a hiatus from the 4NCL or whatever. Okay, summer. Well, for some people, the summer is the time they play. I've got a new team I'm gonna play for. Unclear if they're able to pay me to play all 10 rounds. The team captain said they might not be able to afford to actually pay me for all rounds. So we'll see. But if I play, I would get to play. This is important. I would get to play a game in September before I go to the States, and I would also get to play another game after I get back, between when I get back from the States in September and when I go to World Senior in October. So I could possibly get up to 2 rated, you know, slow games training for the World Senior. Okay, Rudolph against Acerbate. Let's flip the board. Gather round, everybody. Weevil. The Weevil captain. Be careful of those weevils. They eat everything. Yeah, my glasses are, I don't know where they are, but I just saw something about weevils. I'm not much of a gardener myself. E4, C5. Acerbate is black. Now, interestingly, I just... well, I just had a blitz game the other day where I tried something experimental. What did I do? I don't remember. I don't remember what I did, but that's fine. It's not important. Now, Acerbate, knight c6 is principled move here. That's what you did. Keeping control of d4. I want to just re-illustrate the tile gambit, which is d5. There's many ways to skin this proverbial, McDonald attack or whatever. McConnell. McConnell. E6 is good too, with immediate d5. Of course, you can do knight c6, g6. But the tile gambit, most of the time people are going to push. The experts take and go into this gambit after knight f6. Bishop e5 check. And then normally bishop d7. You also see sometimes people play like c4, and you're going to blow them up with e6. Anyway, Acerbate, you can play this if you want to try it. It's a very, very good gambit for black. Just so you know. Although, again, especially at the lower levels, most of your opponents are probably going to push. But another move that I should mention, this has become a kind of fashion lately. Notice this little outlier here. This little statistical outlier, which I'm lovingly highlighting. Now that would be a good feature. If we could, I need like an app or something to highlight the screen. I need something to highlight on the screen. It has to be doable, right? D3. Now Hebden introduced us to the toilet variation, which is also keeping the tension, but not as good, because we can destroy your central pawn, and now you'll have to take back with a knight, and it's not that great for white. Well, Joe Gallagher credited it to Hebden. I don't know, the story, but D3 is more strategic. We're going to take back with a pawn on E4, maintaining control of D5. You hover over it, it draws an arrow. I'm not talking about the board, right? I want to hover over like any part of the screen and draw an arrow. Are we having another misunderstanding like yesterday? The move in the opening book? The move in the opening book. Sure. No, I know. There. But what I was talking about was highlighting, the information at hand here. I wanted to highlight a game. Let's say highlight. Just have a highlighter on the screen that I could just scribble all over what I want, like John Madden. I just want to do a John Madden. Um, this endgame isn't necessarily great for black, even though white loses the right to castle, because white retains the strong pawn on e4. But you need a W premiere. I'm sure it can be done. Anyway, this is not the... We need the geek and nerd raid before we can get answers about this. Okay, f4, knight c6. Just wanted to mention that. And now b3. Okay. Well, b3 is a move. As you can see, it's been very rarely played. Cao Shang. He's now managing like a hotel or something, or working at the Chinese market. I haven't seen him in forever. Alright, b3, d5. Vietnamese, one of the first Vietnamese grandmasters, actually, who played here for a long time. d5, e takes d5, and then Sophie took with the queen. Black is a good game there, but it's unclear. I'm not sure I'd like Sofia Polgar's d5. In fact, knight f6 is interesting. If we play this from like an Alekhine style, I think this is worth considering. We get like a Rosenthalis type of, like a weird Rosenthalis type of c3 Sicilian sort of structure. Knight d5, maybe g3, break the center, takes, queen takes, or pawn takes, I don't know. White looks like he's made a lot of pawn moves and is a little overextended. Whatever. Okay, so it's a very rare move, b3. Another good option is probably e6, d5. That's what Cao Shang played. He played e6. I think he actually plays the French as well. Anyway, the Vietnamese players here, a couple of them played the French. But g6 now, this is not bad. It's like a you know, Nimzovich opening, b3, or Nimzo Larsen. So if bishop b2, you just play knight f6, and you don't mind if they take, because their dark squares are so weak. So here, Astrobate, I disagree with your decision to play f6. I think you should play knight f6 and call their bluff. Because, yes, they can take here, and very likely they will, but keep in mind, white has a lot of weaknesses on the dark squares. And I don't think that, you know, the light squares are going to fully compensate for them. Even in this case, you know, this looks good, but I still think in the long run those dark squares are going to be kind of weak. So I can't condone f6. You're playing like Pia Kramling's husband, who liked to play f6 all the time in the Sicilian. Okay, you can still play it like a rat. I call this the rat. I don't know. You know, knight h6, knight f7. Exactly. Pork chop, rat. And now e5. White tries to break the barriers, undermining his own center, might be argued. But nevertheless, now he has the bishop on b2, and opening this might be beneficial. You know, you're going to negate it with bishop g7. So if he trades on f6, what did he achieve? Let's say he trades on f6, you take with the bishop. He trades on f6, you take with the pawn. What has he achieved ultimately? You might say, well, yeah, there's some weaknesses. But at the same time, there's weaknesses in white's position too. I'm not sure the whole thing. Bishop c4 before, yeah, okay. Yeah, of course, he can play a lot of things. But bishop c4 d5, I guess, you know. White has a lot of weaknesses too, so I'm not completely convinced that black is necessarily worse here, despite the fact that I don't like f6 in general. And we're no fan of Ben Feingold, but I think he was right in this case. Knight f3, knight h6, e5, bishop g7, and now bishop b5. More of a Rosslimo flavor. But this is a good move too. I think that, however, you know, if you trade on c6, black's going to take back with the d pawn, and then the bishop on c8 is going to become in the game, you know, from its... Yeah, I agree with Arsenal fan, though. I think that probably bishop c4 is a better way to go. But I don't agree with, like, tactically lost. We're not exaggerating a wee bit with the weevils. Tactically lost. I take with the queen, and your knight g5, it doesn't actually threaten anything. It's a nice idea, but f7 is defended, and I can take on f4. So, you've been inclined to exaggerate in the past. d5 takes, queen takes, f4 is attacked, and then white should probably play a different move. Not knight g5, but castles. Yeah. Black might be able to get away with castling queenside, but I still feel like white is a little better because this awkward f6. Not the greatest move. So Aspmate really, you know, he screwed the goat there. The sheep, whatever, by playing f6. Had you played knight f6, I mean, first of all, e5, knight d5, this is nothing. We know this is nothing. There you can play f6 with impunity. Now you can play f6, definitely, in this type of structure. That's the f6 you were thinking of. And in this variation, okay. You guys want to predict the evaluation? I think that black can't be worse. Yeah, it's wow. Like a pawn better for black. I'm even surprised it's that big. I thought it would be like a little bit better for black. This position is hugely better for black. So, it was a big mistake to play f6. Alright. But on bishop b5, now you play knight f5, and I don't get it. Seems early to play knight f5. Knight on h6 is guarding this. It's got flexibility. Astrobate, I think you should develop. Not move the same piece again. And you're not even addressing the possibility of g4. Perhaps that's not a good move. But we have to be wary. And most importantly, we have to develop our pieces. So why the hell not castle? I think this is kind of a no-brainer. You should castle early and often. So you play knight f5 instead. You're improving the knight, but leaving your other pieces at home. Castles and now real howler. h6. I'm sorry, a6. Your other rook pawn. You're not allowed to play this move. This is a bad move. Why play a6? If the bishop's not bothering you, then leave it there. I don't understand a6. What benefit do we derive from a6? You know, your point is that maybe taking is not so bad for you, but still, why waste the tempo? You know, why do you want to waste the tempo here with a6? Your king is still in the center. He's trying to rip open the e-file. There's one obvious move in this position, which is castles. And on take on f6, you can think about bishop or pawn takes, but maybe knight d4 isn't so bad either. One or the other, knights to d4. But a6 is horrible. And I think that white, you know, has to seriously consider taking. The downside with that is that he damages your pawn structure, but he does release your bishop from bishop jail. So the bishop is out of Alligator Alcatraz now. You know, it could potentially get in the game. So that's one of the reasons why white decided not to try to take on c6. So it goes bishop c4. I don't know how great this is, though. Acerbi played d5, b5, but maybe d5 is good, too. The interesting question would be, like, if he takes en passant, what do you take with? With the queen or with the knight? My first inclination was take with the knight because it hits the bishop with tempo, but maybe we take with the queen. Okay, fine. This looks okay for black. Maybe white's a little better. I would take with the queen, and I'm most concerned about this and this. F4 might be hanging. But there might be tactics as well. You have to be very careful here, because black is far behind in development. C4, queen b6. So, actually, Acerbi plays these kind of moves like d5 often. I mean, it's possible white has an in-between move. But I don't think this is very good for white. I don't think that's great. You know, I think that black is fine here. Even if the e-files are opening up, whatever. Just move your king to f7 and then say, screw you. Black has a very good exchange French here. In fact, I would rather be black. But anyway, bishop c4, b5. The problem with b5 is bishop d5. And he finds it. And now you have to respond with what I was going to assume is bishop b7. Well, you don't have to do anything. Well, I'm liking this position less. This looks like an appropriate move, actually. And someone mentioned the idea of c4, not in this position, but a minute ago. Maybe here this is actually a good solution to shut down the queen on the diagonal. And if white faces this capture, we'll just take with the bishop. Black's king is still trapped in the center for the time being. The queen isn't so great on b6. So I like this. Bishop takes f6 or pawn takes f6. They're both possible there. That's not really important. But white should do that yet. So queen b6, this is probably a bad move. Waste of time. Bishop b7. You know, I still kind of... Yeah, I guess now c4 is not so good because I take and this got... It's funny that white puts his king on h1 the minute before you played bishop b7. And now g4 is definitely not something I want to try. Yeah, I don't think that was necessary by white. So he takes, and like Icy said, you can take with the bishop. Obviously, you can take with the bishop. You can take with the bishop, you can take with the pawn. They're both possible. Nice thing about bishop takes is that you get a cubbyhole for your king on g7. So, for example, if he trades, check, you could walk over here and into g7, where your king is actually very well placed. That's much safer than other options, like blocking or, you know, even king d8, king c7 might not be, like, absurd, but I don't like the look of the d5 square. We'd rather put our king on g7. h5, h4, and he3 check. I've seen that somewhere. Optimistic. We're just trying to survive at this point. Okay, e takes f6. You take with the e pawn. Check now. That's a problem. Yeah, I think this would have been better. White's not obligated to trade bishops, though. There's also knight c3. But they are in a kind of awkward pin. Though anything could happen. I mean, I could end up on d5. For example, e6, bishop e4. I mean, this is lurking. I'm just trying to like explore some obvious ideas here because this is a complicated position. E takes f6. You should definitely take with the bishop. I just don't know if Asterbate really looked and calculated and considered the possibility of moving his king. Because it looks absolutely fine. So anyway, rook check. This is not, not as enticing. I don't like being pinned. You're self-pinning. Self-pinning, not optimal. So takes. That's a good thing, though. By the way, here, maybe white has a better move, no? Rather than self-pinning, he could play knight c3. I mean, rather than trading on b7 and giving you control of d5, he could play knight to c3. Now you're going to castle queenside, I presume? But I don't trust, the long-term safety of your king that much here. Arsenal's ideas of h5 and stuff, sure, maybe. But it's not clear which king is safer. Anyway, this is kind of a weird move. So takes, queen e2. White should consider opening the game. No? If his king is safer than your king at the moment, maybe it makes sense to open the game, no? I mean, I'm not so negative about this bishop. It's like a King's Indian where you have a pawn on e5. It's possibly a very bad piece. I mean, here it could get out. It can get out later. It's not like necessarily a bad piece forever. Not the worst bishop I've ever seen, and it's a good defender. Queen e2. And now you castle kingside, which is a good idea, except for the fact that you've got to watch for g4. Knight c3. Rook a e8. Queen f2. Okay, so far, so good. And now you play knight to d4. Which is huh? How does that work? We're going to find out. Knight takes d4, c takes d4, and then what? So I'm going to need to see your license. I don't believe that you have a license for that. You bluffed him. This doesn't work. b4? This is not that big of a deal. Asterbate was bluffing. He's bluffing here with knight d4. It's not a good move. But I do think he has a good position. Oh, f5? It may not be enough. It's close. That's better than what he did, probably. But still, there's no need to do this. This is impatient, an impatient plan by Black. Black has everything under control, under orders from the federal government. And, okay, c5 was hanging. So I wanted to play d5, but the problem is, okay, maybe we noticed about this problem. So what should Black do? I think you gotta just make a simple move. Either d6, maybe this is best. Something like queen c6. And you're slightly better. So you just kind of freaked out. Notice this is a 30-minute game, and both sides have 28 and 27 minutes left after 20 moves. Yeah, queen c7 is possible too. Obviously, we like this diagonal. But there are a lot of moves possible. Yeah, this is unnecessary. And white plays let's say white plays for a sort of double attack here. An interesting move. I mean, he's threatening knight d6 and can take d4 multiple ways. So maybe knight e4 isn't even a bad move. Knight f5 defends d6 and pseudo defends d4. This keeps it together, and now the guy played the move that no one in their right mind would ever play. The real question is bishop takes d4. That drops a piece. So white doesn't ostensibly have an advantage. Yeah, let's see what he should play here. He has to take the pawn, and Arsenal's move is best. But it's still not correct for black. Arsenal's f5 is best. After queen takes d4, f5, black is half a pawn worse. You have some compensation. But in this position, yeah, after knight f5, the knight's attacked. Well, nothing's forced. I mean, you know, you can put your knight on g3 and go for an exchange. Maybe this is even a good idea at this stage. Because honestly, you're undermining this pawn. I'd rather play that. I don't think that d3 is forced. d3 is weakening too. Go ahead and play knight g3. Take back with the pawn. And d4 is in trouble. Black is going to be lucky to be able to hang on here. Maybe black can put some pressure on the c2 pawn. I don't know. Okay, d3. Feed him the pawn back. The best try. Yeah, I don't like d3 though, because this creates a huge square there. This is insane. Not the fact that it drops a piece, like everything's possible. Knight d6 also wins a piece. How do you not win a piece in this position? It's really hard to not win a piece here for Asbury, even if he doesn't take it directly. Just go here. Hello? Then you can play f5. d3, f5. Takes, pawn takes. Bye-bye. It's terrible. Maybe on knight d6. Poor guy. Okay, anyway, that was it. Is Mr. Slow here? Do we have Mr. Slow? Josef Vatnikov is in the house. Mr. Slower than last time. Interesting. Let's see. 1991 or 1992, I played in the Mass Open in Boston. Well, outside of Boston, which was won by... I don't remember which year it was now. It was either 91 or 92. I think it was 92 actually. It was I won the Massachusetts Championship in 93. Now, am I lying? I'm lying. I won the Massachusetts Championship in 93? Yeah, maybe. 94. If I won the Massachusetts Championship in 94, then it was 93. Man, I'm getting old. I don't remember shit. But my point of my story was that it was either 1992 or 1993. This guy, Vatnikov, moved to the United States. And he actually settled somewhere in, like, Massachusetts from wherever he was from in the Soviet Union. I don't know, Ukraine or Russia. So I didn't play him, but we played in the same tournament. And everyone was excited because he was like this old player who had played, you know, literally players like Geller and stuff. He was an IM. And he was pretty old. He looked really old. I don't know. He was definitely, at least 75. And I didn't play him, and he was getting weak. I mean, he was like 2,300 max at this time. But it's just kind of interesting. And Bobby Seltzer was a prodigy from Milton outside Boston, and when I moved to Boston, he was a very strong, still a very strong prodigy, but he later would like give up chess. A relatively strong local prodigy in Boston. So Seltzer won the Mass Open ahead of Vatnikov. It was either 92. I think it was 92. And then I don't know. Vatnikov settled somewhere in Western Mass, and then he almost never. Maybe he played in some club or something, but I never saw him again after that. Um, it's just interesting, you know. I'm old enough that I've I've seen this guy, you know. That's why I'm ancient. So when you play chess, I span the generations, 40 years. So Yosef Vatnikov playing black against Geller. Well, anyway, he's not in Geller's league. He is like an average IM, as far as I could tell. I don't know what his specialties were, or, you know. I don't know that he was a professional chess player. I assume he probably had another occupation, like a lot of Soviet players. Might have been like railway workers, you know, like Nesmedinov or something, playing in the Railway Workers Union. My assumption is that Vatnikov probably had, you know, some kind of education outside of chess as well. Anyway, that's my backstory for Mr. Slow's submission of Yefim Geller versus Yosef Vatnikov from, and check this out, 1950. So 42 to 43 years later, I would encounter this dude in his old age. All right, so Vatnikov is black. We're Geller. We're playing white, but this is not a Roy Lopez study any longer. We have Geller playing white in the Sicilian, you know, and I don't know anything about Vatnikov except for that tournament where he played locally. I don't know about his opening repertoire or anything, but it's ballsy to play the Sicilian against Geller. Some other people have done that. Bobby Fischer. But this is 1950. So even Geller is not in his peak yet. Fairly early Geller game. Knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6. Last week we also saw a Geller Sicilian game. Knight c3. We're in the Sicilian chapter now, apparently. So d6, and remember, it's 1950. So Bobby Fischer isn't really a thing yet. Like he existed, but he was just a kid. So it's interesting that Geller was playing bishop c4, the so-called like Sozin, you know, himself, when the Sicilian was so fun. So Geller, of all people, playing the Sozin, you know, later Bobby Fischer, of course, this would be like one of his favorite setups. So it's called the Sozin after the Russian grandmaster. I guess he was a grandmaster. I'm not sure, actually. Maybe Sozin wasn't a grandmaster, but he was a strong master and theoretician. Bishop c4, e6. Queen b6 is the other move, which was later popularized by Benko. And I should also mention bishop d7, played by another great Sicilian player, Leonid Stein. I wonder if anyone ever plays g6 here. Of course they do. There might be a tactical problem, though, with g6. Yeah, it's knight takes c6, takes, and e5, right? How bad is this, though? You can't take on e5. So it looks like knight g4. But it's funny, there's quite a few strong players that have played this. It's possible that it's not that bad for black. e5, knight g4, like they know this going into this, that it's not that bad. And then the question becomes, like, is it worth it to even do that? Or should white just transpose to a normal dragon? What would you do? If g6, f3, bishop g7, bishop e3. Yeah, and the problem is this line with like queen b6 or whatever. This move order isn't really enabling white to get a true Yugoslav attack. So it's actually a way that black could play. G6 is not that bad, it looks like. Anyways, an interesting note. It's playable. Black plays e6 and then castles. So later this would become Bobby Fischer, again, favorite setup. Wonder why, right? Little bit of history, but if you think about it, this is the time when Bobby Fischer started, like, you know, playing chess in 1950, and he was like a little kid or whatever. He was gobbling up like Soviet chess magazines from some bookstores in like New York City. So I imagine it was games like this that actually subsequently, you know, influenced Fischer. Why did Bobby Fischer play the Sozin attack? Well, of course because he learned from studying the games of Russian grandmasters. That's how, you know, of course. He didn't make it up himself. Games like this. Castles, bishop e7, and now bishop e3, this is the sharpest move. I also want to note, Mr. Slow, you of all people, who also play this setup for white, bishop e3 is more accurate. Castle is like Fischer liked to castle kingside and play for f4, f5, the so-called Fischer-Sozin. But with bishop e3, we keep the Velimirovich on the table. And we've already done Velimirovich study here, obviously, on my stream. But Mr. Slow also donated 33, bringing us up to $16.99.99. And you won't find a better discount anywhere. Guys, please support the stream. We're going to go to the World Senior in October, November. Thank you, Mr. Slower, than ever. So, the thing is, the Velimirovich attack wasn't really discovered yet, either. Velimirovich was just, you know, not there yet. Just a little bit later. Like Fischer. So it was still in its primordial time. Bishop e3 gives white more options. You can castle kingside or queenside. Another waiting move is bishop b3. I think Alonso Zapata might have played this against me. I would think this would encourage black to do some kind of weird stuff with like knight a5, though. Chernyshov. Proto-Chernyshov game. Chernyshov would do it all the time. Chernyshov actually would do it on move 6. This is Chernyshov right here. I've played this a couple times. Probably I played against Mr. Slow. The primordial Chernyshov. But if you go there, then white can go back to e2. You know? It's like the Godfather variation in Sicilian. Anyways. Castle committing to castles kingside. Okay, no Velimirovich. Black plays bishop e7. You could go kingside when they do that, no problem. Bishop e3. Now, one thing that you do have to keep in mind here, because I have tons of experience with both sides of these, is that black has the simplifying knight takes e4 type of, you know, fork trick. So at some point, black is going to be threatening either knight takes e4 or d5. And I think that honestly here, it's on. It's a question of like which one, or maybe both, of these moves is going to blow up the center and equalize. So that's why white plays bishop b3 now. It avoids d5 with tempo, and it avoids the fork trick with knight takes e4. Notice there's some games here with king h1. I have to say, that's a very specialist move. King h1. Arashenko, Kravtsev, Ems, Josh Friedel, Kuzmin, Vladimir Guriev, Ems, Bangiev, Josh Friedel, Vladimir Gurevich, Danny Edelman. So with King H1, you're kind of like, well, I understand, F4, G4, whatever, but this doesn't do anything about said fork tricks. Can't black play knight takes e4 here? Or d5? Let's try the d5. So Gregory Markson played this against Friedel back in 2003. So what do you think? Take bishop e2? Oh my god. What is Markson doing? He tries to be like Mr. Fancy against a tactical dude like Friedel. Why not just recapture? What's the problem here? Wow. That's really weird. He plays d5 and Josh was studying with Larry Christensen. I played Josh around this time. Larry taught him to play the Sozin probably. And Larry would play a lot of things, but Sozin was one of them. This is so stupid to play against a tactical kid, Alright. I think d5 comes close to equalizing. What about knight takes e4? It's strange that this hasn't been tried, at least. Knight takes e4, knight takes e4, d5, knight takes e6, b takes e6. Bishop d3, d takes e4, bishop takes e4, and white has a very small advantage, it looks like. Anyone who likes grass grow type positions, like someone on sound, would be down with this. Anyways, whatever, we're off the subject. So bishop b3 is the main move. You understand why it's played. It's probably better than king h1. It avoids both tricks. And now bishop d7. Bishop d7 makes some sense, because how does white avoid the exchange of pieces here? When you play the white side of the Sicilian and black puts the bishop on d7, what white normally wants to do is avoid exchanges, because these pieces are congested and getting in each other's way. So there are oftentimes situations where you like to pull your knight back, but you don't want to do that in front of the pawn. This is harmless. So white has nothing better. This is a mainline Sozin. I probably had this position with black against James West in a quad in New Jersey in, like, I don't know, 1989 or something like that. I remember losing to James West. He was a huge Bobby Fischer fan, and he was like a life master. He's still around. But he did play the white side of the Sozin well. And we have a very standard Fischer Sozin here. Oh, see, there in the opening Explorer, Fischer Spassky 1972, Fischer Larsen 1971. So a6 transposes to the Najdorf. I think it's best. Knight a5 is interesting as well, going after the bishop. I'm having a weird flashback. I was talking about that tournament where Bobby Seltzer won the Mass Open ahead of Vatnikov. And I don't remember. I must have not been in contention in that event. I wasn't that good there, and there was something about Seltzer playing black in one of these knight a5 Sozins. Maybe he even could have played it against a Vatnikov. So isn't it kind of like f4, b6? Yeah, this type of thing. Oh, there's a guy who's playing in the World Senior, by the way. Very strong player who I met once. Pavel Kotsor. What is he from? Is he from Uzbekistan? He's registered for the 50 plus World Senior. Very strong player, formerly 2600. I met him in Moscow in 2004. But this line is pretty okay for black too, I think. Anyway, black plays knight a5. Okay, so Vatnikov does this. That's weird. All right. b6. So it's Geller Vatnikov. This setup is okay for black. This is actually kind of... I would think at the time this would have been sort of groundbreaking, you know. It's quite a hyper-modern methodology here by Vatnikov. Though I assume there might have been other games. So e5. And Geller goes for it. You know, the problem with knight a5, anytime you play knight a5 in the Sicilian Sozin or any Sicilians to chase that bishop, when you go out on the side with knight a5, what you say to yourself, what am I losing? I'm losing control of e5 and d4. You know, so you're gaining a bishop, but you're losing control of e5 and d4. And that's the thing here. So white gets it in. And now apparently, judging by the statistics, it looks like Vatnikov's knight e8 is incorrect. I mean, it's natural to want to avoid opening white's rook for him. Yeah, white would have pawn takes f6, Ars. So, but I mean, it is counterintuitive to take. You feel like, okay, you're opening the guy's rook. There's possible rook sacrifices on f7 in these Sozin lines. Yeah, I get it. Instead of b6, you could play that. It's played. You can see there's some games. The question is really, what does black do next? You know, so you can't play b6 once you've done that because of knight c6. So you have to choose another move. I don't know what, but it is playable. It looks like a6 has a good score. Definitely worthy of a further analysis. I don't know that b6 is black's best move. It's simply the most common. Knight b3 has a much better score. It does have the better score. There's no top level games here, you know, strangely. They're all sort of second level. Karsten Mueller, Lothar Vogt, Milos, Limp, Hanfi, Volzhin. I mean, they're like IMs versus IMs or weaker GMs. There's no top games. It's very strange. A takes B. Now a6. And the best we can do is Antipov Kononenko 2012. It is surprising, you know. Surprising how there are no top level games at all here. And apparently like very critical line. But I think that, you know, personally I would go back to this point and I would play a6. I mean, it is the main move. And we transpose to the Najdorf on a6. Maybe knight a5 is controversial. So maybe b6 isn't quite the best. But after e5, like, that Mass Open, there was some game where like, Seltzer was involved in a game with this. I don't remember which side he was. It's possible Vatnikov could have played like Geller against Bobby Seltzer. But anyway, my memory is too foggy and it wasn't that meaningful for me at that time. But they had written about it in Chess Horizons, which was a local chess magazine when I was a student. Knight e8. And then suddenly white has a very good score here. Well, 98 is unquestionably a little bit passive. But what's the problem with pawn takes pawn? Okay, you guys want to take a guess? There's a sacrifice on f7, most likely. Sacrifices on f7 and e6. The point is, if black tries to play knight d7, there are going to be some sacrificial tactics. So we're going to see now. First off, knight d5. This was played in a game. I don't know. I mean, how bad is it? Just a random game from 1994. Knight d7 was played in 2 games. And the Austrian, I believe, player Lendwai played rook takes f7. That's the danger. This is very scary for black. Sirius Wirius, they call him, played knight takes e5, and now rook takes f8 check, queen takes f8. No, bishop takes. Bishop takes e6 check, winning a pawn. Wow, what's going on here? White's like winning. Okay. White should be winning. So knight d7 interferes with black's defense. So that's why it's better to go to a different square. You know, this knight d5 is not that easy to crack at the end of the day. Knight e8, apparently best. But Vanikov tried to play knight e8 without releasing the tension, which I guess gives white more options, you know, i.e. like f5. I mean, when you're black in this type of structure, when you take here, you know, you're looking at this pawn as a sort of weakness. But the problem is the activity along the f-file. So it's a trade-off, you know. In exchange for the isolated pawn, white now gets open line. The dynamics of the position increase. Vanikov tries to keep the tension, but now white has that lever with f5, which obviously wouldn't be possible if you trade on e5 first. And that's what Geller does. Now, we don't know if there are other games where this has been played before, and we won't find them on lichess, because the lichess database, unfortunately, doesn't contain a lot of the older games that it probably could. Erasing the past. So f5. Notice that some other players here have played queen h5. Walter Whitman, coincidentally also an Austrian player, same as Lenbai, and the Hungarian Károly Hanfi. That's the oldest game in the database. I never met Hanfi. I don't know. If there's more than one Hanfi, I don't think so. He might even still be alive. Probably not. Okay, queen h5. I think he must be dead. Queen h5. We have caveman stuff with like rook f3, rook h3. But it also increases the pressure here, but also giving us rook d1. White has a very strong... No, but it's Walter Whitman. I knew Walter. Yeah, the poet, of course. Spelling is different. Walter died, unfortunately, like 2 years ago. I don't know if it was like COVID related. He was a nice guy. He was very he was very he was a very good sport and longtime Austrian Olympic player, international master, and he was very strong in the opening prep. He was an expert kind of theoretician, even though practically he wasn't that strong. He was almost GM strength in terms of his opening prep. He was like weaker. He was nervous and kind of. He had a nervous sort of tendency at the board, and I think that a lot of times he would get in time pressure and blunder. But Walter, I had some tough games with him. He beat me the last time we played. I think, interestingly, he did like a John Curdo where he never beat me, and then beat me the last time we played. We played like maybe 7 times, and I think I was like 2-0 against him, but lost the last time really badly. He crushed me really badly. Thanks for the background there, Dragonfly Hunter. So Humphy, there was another Humphy, I believe. Maybe there are more than one. I thought there was like a Humphy Geza. It's a relatively common Hungarian name. Anyway, all right. I can't keep track of all these guys. F5, D takes E5, and now F takes E6. So pawn takes F7 check is gonna fork pieces. Very Velimirovichian. Yeah, I mean, Vatnikov, as I said, he was at the Mass Open. I get the feeling like, he had some weakness, like maybe he wasn't that strong tactically. Obviously a good player, but, we all have our weaknesses. But, here we're following a game from France, 1995. René against Relage. Re. Obviously, F6 is not really a good idea. But Vatnikov is hoping that he can take out the bishop on B3 and maybe the pawn on E6 just kind of goes away. Who can blame him, right? If F6, if you think about it, play F6, you presume like white has to move his knight, and then you just, whatever white does, you take on B3 and you take on E6. The problem is white might have something else. And I don't look at the moves, I'm not looking ahead. I want to see this for myself. But I mean, okay, the first question is like the obvious, what happens if you take? Takes, check. Oh, so my friend Jose has a game here with black. He lost in 2006. That hurts. He lost to a 22-66. Ouch. E takes F7 check, King H8. F8 queen. Queen E8. Same exact continuation as what happened in the France game. Bishop takes D4. So white wins a pawn. White wins a pawn, but black gets the 2 bishops. Relanche actually won with black. A takes B. And Relanche traded rook takes rook check. And Jose played bishop B7. So what's up with rook takes rook check? I assume that black has some compensation and maybe he's almost okay. Rook F1 check. Queen F1. Bishop B7. The 2 bishops aren't too bad, The extra pawn is doubled. You would assume that black has good chances to hold on for a draw. Well, it's still a pawn is a pawn, but yeah. I don't understand how Jose lost to a 2260. To a 2006 2260. So knight takes B3, A takes B, bishop B7, queen G4. So that isn't really great for black. So that's why black was probably better off doing the rook exchange. But Vatnikov panics. But I just want to check something, guys. I don't know what Geller's analysis was, Mr. Slow. But on pawn takes knight, we assume pawn takes pawn check, okay. Are there any other moves? We have to do pawn takes pawn check. And then after king h8, you have any other move? Because if you try to like play a long-term sacrifice here, I don't know, capture, the problem is black's just gonna blockade. I don't think that Geller had any other options if this line was played. You kind of have to take on e8. And queen e8. It is possible white, white could play queen takes d4, but I mean, after this, bishop c5, rook takes f8 check is forced. Let's see. Queen e5, bishop e3, or even bishop d6. Still, it's not so clear. But f6, so this is like Vatnikov's choice. A very risky move, leaving the dangerous pawn on the board. So one thing here is that if knight f5, you can't trade queens because of knight takes e7 check. I don't know, Vatnikov missed that. What did he miss, That's the question. What did he miss here? Queen f3 isn't anything. What are you missing here? And this is extremely scary. You think you have knight takes b3? He thinks he has knight takes b3. Arsenal can attest. Is there going to be anything with queen takes d8 and like e7? Oh man. So what do you think Vatnikov expected expected white to play after knight takes b3? Maybe this, e7, takes, check, king f7. Do you expect Geller to like be down a pawn in an endgame or something? Knight takes c8? No. That's the only question. You played this move f6, and white plays the obvious knight f5. And black plays knight takes b3. I wonder what we're expecting white to play now. Queen g4. This doesn't even threaten anything. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to understand, queen g4 suggested by Arsenal fan. The problem is that g7's protected, Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what you're expecting white to think about, right? I'm just kind of confused. So black can't take on e6, but white's not actually clearly threatening anything. I mean, what about like bishop h6, for example? Or maybe we're threatening knight takes g7 for reals. Just imagine for a second, like white could play knight takes g7. Black could even play king h8 there, maybe. What if black just you know, takes the rook, right? Let's say. Take the rook. There's all sorts of nasty stuff here, though, isn't there? This comes to mind. Kind of oof. That looks sort of oof. So I don't think that you can take the rook. But what maybe you could do would be to mess with white with something like knight d4. But it's still oof, right? Well, you are attacking that. So bishop takes d4, threatening oof. All the lines look horrible for black. You know, the more you look at this. But Geller just like oofs him immediately with knight d5. Here I would assume that black has to play bishop takes e6. But he's getting massacred and might even lose a piece or something. Right? You just lose a piece. Check. And takes. Black totally missed knight d5. Yeah, bishop c5 is bad. We'll just take and we're threatening e7. It's all bad. I guess knight f5 is just winning. You know, once you play knight f5, black's like lost here. It looks like. I don't know, I'll turn on the engine and check. It's just lost. Yeah, there's nothing that black can do. So f6 just loses. Here's an interesting move that's never been played. Wow. E takes d4 is the best move, but interestingly, black can play king h8, f takes e6, or even knight takes b3, and maybe not be lost. But f6 is like the worst move on the board. Alright, anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it was interesting, an interesting position. I don't know that I've looked at this game in much depth. f6, blunder, knight f5, winning, knight b3. It's very beautiful, knight d5. Bishop b6 loses a piece, so he goes here, check, and now there's going to be these like mating threats with knight g6. Oh, okay, there's no more bishop on the diagonal. Black played king h8 and then resigned. Oh, it is? It is strong. Oh, no. Oh, he has e7. Oh, my God. Knight g6 check resigns. Takes an e7. Oof. That's beautiful. Nice job. Nice job, Geller. Way to beat that fishy Vatnikov. Yep. All right, good game. That was Mr. Slow's contribution. Thank you. Now I've got games from Snedstag, Mule Skinner, Redusa, and Arsenal. Arsenal bait. Yep, maybe playing the Sicilian wasn't a good choice there against Geller. Okay, who's here and who's not here? Redusa's here. Arsenal fans here. Snedstag, are you here? Raise your hands. GP Bear, welcome. Thanks for joining us. ICTs. Just started in like 2020. Move 11 is here. What does that say? Itchy Arsenal. Why am I so hot? I need to turn on the fan. Okay. Turned it off. Ooh, I'm like sweating. It's really hot now. It's not a joke anymore, boys. We got some kind of message here. Mysterious power of the new. Power of the new. You have to be a subscriber. Do you want to tell us who you are? I'm happy to analyze your game if you tell us what your subscriber name is on Twitch. I need a headband. Yeah, I know. I'm inspired by a lot of people with headbands. I have one. I have like a towel. I have a terry cloth. What do you call it? I want to get wristbands. I've already went into this like routine. My teammate, my ex teammate Zoltan Varga. He's overweight, but he does play tennis, or he used to, and he was like at one point he was wearing like this terry cloth wristband. I was like, fuck. Flashback to like 1980. I remember I was like 11 years old and I had these like terry cloth wristbands. It was even older than that. It was probably like 1979. I swear to God. It was a total fashion. It was like 1979. Everybody had these terry cloth wristbands in all different colors and shit that like the tennis players wear. That's what that stooge looks like. But I felt sorry for Zoli Varga because he didn't know, like, he's just like using a 1979 era fashion. Yeah, John McEnroe era. Yeah, I was like watching tennis on TV, I was watching Jimmy Connors with my like terry cloth wristbands on. All right. Knight f3, d5, e3. Oh, this is Sensei. Wait. I want to go in order of who actually is here. Sensei, are you present? Say I. Martina was playing. Mule Skinner is here. I saw him here earlier. We have a chess quorum. We're not going to start with the Texas politics, are we? I don't mind. You want to go down the politics? No, I've been following that whole thing, that drama. Snetsig said he's still working. Okay. We'll save him for later. Let's do Mule Skinner. Something went wrong when I tried to load Mule Skinner's game in. Let's try this again. Somehow I messed up the PGN. Don't know how. This should work. There it is. All right. We'll delete the other one. All right, here we are. So Mule Skinner is black, and he made a comment that he's like played in some trap he like has used himself. All right, so FM, FIDE Master Mario Brothers. Now, Mule Skinner is in Spain, and I'm just curious. It's funny, in Hungary there's some Roma gypsies who actually like Latin names. They'll actually occasionally be named Mario. It's obviously an Italian name, but Mule Skinner's in Spain, and I'm just curious. I didn't really realize Mario is a Spanish name, but I guess it makes sense. Like what other name would replace Mario in Spanish? I never really heard of any. Thanks, Arsenal fan, for the update. It's a Latin name. No, but I mean, I literally don't know any Marios who are Spanish. Mario Andretti, it's Italy. But what's the equivalent in Spanish? There is no equivalent of Mario in Spanish. It's weird, you know. In in Romanian, it would be Marius, obviously. Maria, of course, but a male version of Maria. Yeah, right. Jesus Maria. Yeah, sure. All right, Mario against Mule Skinner. I like to get off the subject, you know, have some fun. Yeah, the only Mario I know in Hungary is Roma. I think one of the poker dealers I know. E4, E6, D4, D5, Knight C3. So we're being Mule Skinner, and his opponent is playing. Classical. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to call it. What do you call it when white plays Knight C3? I mean, Knight D2 is the Tarash. But it's funny, like, another off-topic question, but, like, this doesn't have a name, you know? It's kind of funny. Oh, it's called Paulson variation. Well, you learn something new every day. But, I mean, I've literally been to Spain, like, 10 times, and I know, like, dozens and dozens of, like, Spanish chess players, and I never recall anyone being named Mario. You know, it's weird. But yeah, you stop and you think about it, and there is no answer. They just don't name people in Spain Mario very often. So Knight C3. Um, well, Maria is Mary, the Holy Mother, so maybe it's like an insult. I don't know. D takes C4, Knight takes C4. Mule Skinner is playing the Rubinstein variation. I think either your name is George Meyer or you don't play it. You know, that's all there is to it. You know, they were talking about this somewhere. I went to the World Senior. Like, Saric or something had a game, because I was talking to this Croatian player who's an arbiter, and we somehow got on the subject of you know, George Meyer and the Rubinstein French, and then the guy was like, oh yeah, there was the time that Saric had this game that was like 29 moves of theory, and he, like, you know, crushed George Meyer and, like, refuted his Rubinstein French or something. You know, like 32 moves of some variation or something. But I mean, the Rubinstein French is really, really hard. It takes a special kind of sadistic, right? Masochistic. Yeah, when you want to, like, torture yourself. Both. You know, you're sadistic toward yourself to play this for black, man. No, Rockport plays Knight F6, Knight takes F6, G takes F. Okay, Mule Skinner, we'll see you later. Used to play Bishop B4, Bishop A5. So you're trying the Rubinstein. So it's just hard for black. But, you know, okay, objectively, the good news is you're playing against a stronger player. Because you definitely don't want to play this against a weaker player. Because you're never going to win. You know, you might get a draw or you might lose. You're playing for two results, a draw or a loss. It's basically impossible to win on the black side of the Rubinstein variation. One of the dumbest, I remember Akobe and Brujan playing it in the U.S. Championship like 5 years ago. He had already lost like 3 games with black against the strongest players in like all different openings. Then he plays the French, but he plays Rubinstein and it gets crushed by Wesley So or something. Okay, Knight D7. I think Knight D7 is best. I don't trust the Fort Knox. It's playable. Actually, move 11 was here earlier. We looked at some lines in the Fort Knox. There might be some chances if you end up trading light square bishop for white knight. Yeah, the positions resemble Scandinavians, which suck, and they're awful for black. And again, you're playing for two results, a loss or a draw. This is why I don't like the Fort Knox. You know, it's you have to be playing someone completely incompetent in order to like win with black. Your only options are losing or drawing. Exactly. You play bishop c6, bishop takes f3, and you're like Yasser against Peter Leko, like the best model game I ever saw. Leko just absolutely destroyed him like a computer. It's horrible for black. But I think 97 is the best shot. You know, that's what George Meyer plays. Bishop d3, knight f6, and now, you know, normal, of course, is knight f3, but white played queen e2. Okay, I am unfamiliar with this move. I like the idea of playing queen e2 because it involves castling queenside, which is fun. But I want to go back a second before we go any further, actually. The whole move order is unusual, right? Usually white plays knight f3. So this guy specifically doesn't play knight f3. He plays bishop d3. Okay. And now you play the normal move, and then he plays this. Okay. So this is an aggressive line where white is going to accelerate his chances of castling queenside quickly. By the way, Ivanchuk Karpov, 1996. But I just want to mention, like, I don't understand that. You know, like, I've seen like 2 examples of Karpov playing the French. This one and like one other game. But Karpov like never played the French. I don't know what he had, like a brain worm or something. Maybe he was like hanging out with RFK Jr. back in the day in 1996. That's weird that Karpov would play the French. All right. Traditionally, he never played the French. Knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, and now the problems in these type of openings is if you go here, you leave e5 weak. Black needs to do something, though. c5 attacking the center allows d5. There's pressure on the b7 pawn, so it's hard to get the bishop out. Well, I mean, the thing is that Karpov played the Caro-Kann, the Petrov, and the Spanish with black, and the Sicilian until, 1990. So he had like 4 major openings he could play. There's no need to include the French there. He's already all set. He's got plenty of things he can play. He doesn't need to play the Caro-Kann. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the Petrov or the black set of e4, e5. Don't need to be playing the Rubinstein French. I guess it's just like a respect automatic draw or something. Oh no. So what are you supposed to do now? Bishop e7. Now, you could play something really stodgy like c6. Udazin, this is probably like New York Masters or something, 2004. Udazin managed to win a game against a weaker player, but still, he's 2400. Yeah, c6 is grotesquely passive, but it's playable. And avoids the following trap. Mule Skinner fell into the trap. And this is crazy because his opponent is an FM, rated around 2200. And nowadays, 2200 is a normal rating for FMs. Because everyone has lost like 100 points. FMs used to be 2300, now the average rating is like 2200. So knight f6, bishop takes b7, oops. But don't worry, you're in good company. Timofeyev, Ratmir Holmov, Rip. There's a bunch of 2500 players have blundered this. So Mule Skinner blunders, but the good news is you get to trade off your bad bishop. Bishop takes b7. Wow. So it's tempting to take and draw the queen in there, you know, with queen check. I mean, white has like 0 development. But the real problem for black would be, you know, like the pawn structure being broken as well. Black isn't just down a pawn. He's down a pawn with benefits. So, down a pawn, and we have the isolated A and C pawns. Even better. The Smith Gambit, my favorite. A teeny amount of compensation. I don't know why it flags that, but anyway. But there's already the question whether you should take or play rook b8. I feel like drawing the queen in might even be beneficial. No one's played c6 here. I guess it doesn't really have any positive. We should play knight d7. Queen takes b7. And now, like, liquidating the c pawn would be good. Except for the fact that white has, like, 3-on-1 queenside majority. Objectively, we're probably losing. Timofeyev managed to draw. And the Serbian Laitam managed to draw. So there's your compensation. A couple of those guys managed to draw. Relatively strong opponents. Even after dropping this pawn. It's just a pawn. But you played rook b8. So see all the victims of this? Heinel, Blaszko István, Dimo Werner blundered against Westerinen. Maybe Dimo's the first one. No, there was a game from 1980. Dimo dropped it in 1981 against Westerinen. Oh, now it's possible to play bishop c6 check. It doesn't really benefit white. So bishop takes c8. Queen takes. I agree. Most likely the white player will play b3 later, and so this rook will be somewhat shut down. But it still seems like the right way to do it. Knight f3. When you blunder the pawn here, the important thing is, like Arthur Bisgeier famously said, you know, never let them know that you're losing. I mean, it's important psychologically. Even if, like, you know you're losing and you see a, like, crushing move for the opponent. The most important thing is, like, you pretend like everything's okay, you know. It's very important. Because if the opponent starts to gain confidence, they play better, you know. You got to act like this. You totally planned this out, you know. And the other guy's going to assume, like, did he really sacrifice this pawn on purpose? So you see now we played c5. You also blundered. And then used it myself. Mr. Slow. So I don't know. C5, not the main move. Played by Louis Roos. The problem with C5 is that, you do undermine white center, but now you're facing the majority of death on the queen side. It seems very easy for white. It's unbelievable. Oh my god. Black scored 2 out of 3 in this position. And this guy, Libezuski, is 2486 and lost with white against an older, master, Louis Roos. That's terrible, dude. He's 2486 and he lost with white. My god, bro. C5 castles, c takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop c5, and now both players lost this position. The statistical chances that white losing 2 out of 2 in this position, that has to be like, it is basically like a free pawn, a whole pawn up. I don't really see much compensation. A draw would be, if black scored a half point out of 2 here, it would be, a big deal. But to score 2 out of 2 is like a 10% statistical, it's the 10% statistical chance that could happen, Knight b3, first off, I don't like this knight blocking our pawn. So I'm not sure. The other thing that I don't like is the knight on f3 is actually quite well placed. It controls e5. So it's counterintuitive. But why not just take on c5 like Alexei Ivanov did in 2005? White's being too dogmatic. Like, I don't want to help my opponent develop. Well, it doesn't matter if you have fucking 3 pawns on 1 on the queen side. He should just take, just take. Keep your knight on f3. It's a good piece. It's controlling e5. It's controlling d4. It helps protect your king side. This is a very subtle mistake, but it is a mistake. Playing dogmatically here with castles. Now getting your knight dragged away from the king side and it ending up on b3 where it actually blocks your queen side majority. That's extra dumb. After bishop c5, okay, it was probably Libezuski played this. At least play rook d1, right? That's got to be better than knight b3. In fact, maybe knight f3 should be considered. Is that a different game? We just transposed. So, yeah, knight b3, awkward. Your guy does that. And now black castled. But I mean, yeah, also a horrible decision by black. Holy fuck. 1997, Alexei Potkin. Bro, you're like down a pawn and you're going to let him take your bishop? And you win the game? How would black possibly win the game? You're down a clear pawn. You have a 3-on-1 queenside majority for white. Bishop versus knight. The only way that black loses this position is to collect like $500 under the table. A draw would be a miracle. That's embarrassing, man. Bishop d6. Yeah, I mean, it's only a question whether you want to go here. And by the way, if you play this, I mean, this is going to be an issue. I don't know where we want to put the bishop. e7 needs to be considered too. You have a good square for your knight. White's probably going to play c4. I don't know where to put the bishop, but I'm not letting him take it. That's for sure. Bishop d6 seems okay. It avoids exchanges. Bishop g5. You can allow that exchange. And actually, I think maybe it would imbalance the game in a positive way for black. And in fact, so Mule Skinner gets a star for doing this. He's not afraid to allow bishop takes f6. Yeah, knight b3 isn't great. Um, but, you know, most people would routinely move their knight in this position, like knight d5 or something. But I think you're welcoming imbalance. Down a pawn, why not? You know, allow him to take on f6. Queen c7, and now g3. Difficult call for white. g3 or h3. And now Skinner goes postal. As chess riddle arrives. Chess brittle. Well, you've got nothing to lose. You blundered a pawn. You can't. I don't know. It's hard to argue with his move, though. It feels bluffy. We're going to have trouble if we can't coordinate. My original plan was to castle. I have to admit, like, my plan was to just castle. And it's nothing special, right? But I'm kind of hoping white will take here. We can play f5, put our king on h8, and I think that black has chances to hang on. White didn't take last move, and so there's no guarantee he's going to take here. Maybe white just makes like a sensible move. I don't know what he's going to do, but let's say rook d1. Then you could decide what you want to play. Like, Arsenal fan was talking about, you know, Benko like counterplay. Okay, it's a stretch. But this is really a nice idea. I guess the main thing is to put the knight on g4. It's not that we're threatening brute force h4, but it is a solution that's not passive. It just, I think that Skinner makes a good choice. He also can like play king f8 without castling and activate his rook here. No, I think it's a good move too. I like h5. Arsenal's early mention of knight d4 would give us some possible, you know, sort of double threat ideas. That's a theme. I didn't ignore you, Arsenal, but I just try to move along a little bit so we can't hit every variation. Because I saw what you're talking about. Obviously, knight f5, typical idea. But I really like h5. I think it's a good choice. And then, again, rook d1. But these pawns, look at these pawns. There's his queenside majority. How you doing over there, guys? They don't seem to be an integral part of white's sort of middle game play yet. Smurfette suggested it? Okay. Well, she gets full credit. Gold stars. So black now plays h4. Wow. 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 I mean, I didn't think you're going to play h4. Okay, there's an issue here. White is threatening rook takes d6, no? If white gets that amount of simplification, it's going to be lights out. Rook d6, queen d6, bishop f4, no e5. You're just going to have to trade everything. The move I wanted to play earlier was like rook b4, you know, to give us this. And that would help us join the attack anyway. Probably c3. And join the attack. But still, it can't hurt, right? We have a lot of squares. That's not a good one. Ugh. There's this coming in. Oh, do we mention we haven't castled yet? C3 kind of a little bit of a fun killer. Maybe it's not a big deal. I mean, rook g4, queen b5 check, king f8. What could possibly go wrong? One little queen exchange and it's game over. All right, but he does it. He does it. Rook takes d6. Wow. So did you see this? Yeah, I would have been shitting bricks here. Like, oh fuck. Well, now we're down a pawn in a much more simplified position. That's the problem. So I think winning can be ruled out. On the plus side, we have a little teeny bit of counterplay with the h pawn there. So maybe h4 was a mistake, but I don't know, you know, what else you should do. I'll just make one suggestion. It's really kind of lame, though. I was thinking knight g4, but I don't know what the follow-up is going to be. I really don't think we even really have a threat here. It looks bad. Maybe something unorthodox. But again, he's threatening rook takes d6. Chess riddle. Not my favorite picture. Okay, it's not my worst. It's not the best. Thank you. Don't make like emotes out of those widely available photos. h4, rook d6. But it's not hopeless. You know, the good news is you picked up the bishop for the knight. You picked up the bishop for the knight. We don't have any kind of or bishop for bishop. Sorry, it was an even trade. Queen f3. But how does White, you know, mobilize his queenside majority? Let's play by fundamentals. Open file. If I was White here, okay, my first move is this. I'm Jose Raul Capablanca. Uber driver said I'm supposed to control open files, so that's what I'm going to do. I get it now. I get it. White was concerned about the H file, so he doesn't want to be seeing like this. Which means like he would have to take back with the F pawn. Which is definitely not super safe. So rook d1 isn't very good. He plays queen f3, guarding along diagonal. And now hg3. Now that's a move I don't want to play. You don't have a lot of leverage here, Mule Skinner. So I think in general, a pawn down, not enough compensation, but close. Any sort of move that releases the tension is probably a bad idea. You know, you want to keep as many options as you can. So pretty much anything else. Nimzovich would have played what, like rook h5? I mean, maybe his fear is, and rightfully, could be strong g4. This is a big question. It's possible that g4 is a move that would change the structure favorably in some way. Like giving White a little more momentum. For example, rook g5, h3. So in that sense, you know, on the other hand, who knows? Maybe we have rook h6. And if g4 or h3, you know. I just don't know. This feels like releasing the tension. But okay, you have the H file. I mean, it's there. It looks pretty good. Oh my god. He castles now? Castles we can't like castles. But the problem is queen e5, queen e8 check. The problem is his king and queen c6 too. And things like king e7, knight d4. So Muleskinner decided to just suck it up and castle. Yeah, there is a check, right? But I agree. Maybe it's better off you just walk your king over here manually. I like the rook on the H file. I agree. Now, we will see a rook coming to d1. But okay. It's not the end of the world. You know, you can play king f8. I wholeheartedly agree we shouldn't castle. Now we don't have any compensation. We're just down a pawn. Rook d1, a5. Okay. If he allows the split pawns, it would be like you're threatening a4 here. That's uncomfortable for white. He plays rook d4. He played e5, disruptive. Now rook a4. Problematic, pawn overloaded. And then e4. I don't think white wants to sack the exchange, so he plays queen f4. Desperately seeking Susan. Queen exchanges are not allowed. Yeah, white's losing the thread here, though. There's suddenly queen c8, queen h3, knight g4. This is the moment where white realizes, like, oh fuck, you know, I have no idea if I'm even better anymore. I've let this thing get out of control. This is a great move. Yeah, I mean, no, he has a difficult position after e4. What's he going to do? Like, queen g2? I mean, that's horrible. He's consistently, like, little by little, not played well. The knight on b3 was really... I think you can judge by the fact that the knight hasn't fucking moved in the last, like, 15 moves, or whatever, that he has issues. That was a bad decision to put the knight on that square in the first place, but okay. Queen f4, yeah. Black cannot trade queens. This is not an option. But the question is, where white queens be best? Is f4 really a good square? Because I kind of think, like, no. Okay, he wants to watch e3. So if you go to f5 or something, you got to be very, very scared. He has to stay in contact with that square, but, like, e2 looks a little more natural somehow. It keeps control of d1, it protects c2. Queen f4 is not really clear what it does, but it leaves the light squares weak around there, you know. So queen c8, and now I'm gonna freaking panic. He's gonna have to play like queen h4, c3, and if queen h3, queen h4. Yeah, well, he had to play c3 because he wants to play knight d4. Actually, he doesn't have to, but he had to defend the pawn. Rook d8, knight d4, and now rook d5. So we could play rook h5, right, Arsenal? Muleskinner went the long way home. We could have got that rook a little bit quicker to h5. And now white is getting really scared. This also prevents knight f5. This is a great defensive game by Muleskinner. Active defense game. A good example. Check, king g1. And now you're playing in FM, you're down a pawn, but you have compensation. Queen c8 is kind of a... It admittedly would be kind of a sign of weakness. But I know Muleskinner is always in time pressure. But we have to be careful not to be irrational. Just because the opponent is willing to, like, repeat moves doesn't mean we're better. and we could still lose. But he goes for it with queen d3 now. Threatening queen b1 check and queen takes b2. Queen c1. A tragically passive move. Unfortunately, e3 allows queen takes e3, when I guess white can, settle for that. e3, queen takes e3. What about knight to g4? This feels like a free kick. Can you hear me now? I'm sounding like David Lynch again. Phew, I want to play e3. Knight c6 can happen. Right. But guess what else can happen? Knight g4 and e3. So that's my question to you. What happens now if knight to g4? What does white play? The e3 is like very scary. And there's no easy way for white to trade queens. Looks like he has to go f4. He probably has queen back to f4 there, attacking the knight. Then this, actually. Yeah, this is tricky. I mean, white could come away with trading queens and still be better. But Mule Skinner, wow, played e3. I do not understand. I do not understand what happened next. Oh no! Queen d1 check, brilliant. Oh my god, I didn't see it. Oh my god. That's a great move. Dude, it's brilliant. He can't take with the queen because of queen d1 check. Now white is toast, dude. He's got to be toast. He's lost. He's lost. He's lost, dude. His king is naked. His king is like, Oh my god. Cue the South Park Trump devil memes. That king is not coming back from Epstein Island. Look at white's pieces. Queen on c1, rook on a4, and knight on d4. If white's not lost here, I'll eat my shirt. There's no way you can defend your king side. The point was I didn't know that he could, I thought he could take with the queen. But he drops the freaking rook with check. Oh my god. That's why I was thinking about playing like knight to g4. This is crushing. Oh no. So now it's only a matter of finding like the devastating final blow. But Mule Skinner probably in time pressure here. Queen e4, his choice looks interesting. But I wonder if there's not something better. Let's start with the most, sort of like direct move. I'm not convinced about knight g4, surely. Because with knight g4, like, what is your direct threat? Arsenal fan. I was thinking rook g5, actually. Because you take the g3 pawn with check. Maybe it's not as strong. Yeah, queen e4 with the ideas, but he plays queen c2. You'll see what happens. But this move, how does white defend? Black's three pieces are amazingly well coordinated here. Yeah, I think this is really strong. I just don't think that white can survive. King g2. King g2, knight e4. Surely that can't hold. I was thinking queen e1. Let's see. Queen e1, knight e4, knight e2. Queen takes e3 check. You know, we're not going to survive, are we? There's this. Ugh. That's not good. I like white. Yeah, so I think it's lost after rook g5. Let's see. Yeah, apparently rook h5 is also winning. A whole bunch of moves are winning. Maybe his move is winning too. The obvious threat of rook h5. But, you know, can't maybe white play like knight e2? And no, that would not be an option. The point of queen e4 is that you're pinning him, by the way, to the a4. The side effect, let's say. One of the beautiful points of queen e4 is pinning that guy. It's kind of an awkward idea here. Okay. So the game continuation, queen c2. Very logical. And we cannot trade queens. You win a piece with rook takes d4 and you didn't see it. Fuck. I saw this a long time ago. I saw it like 8 years ago, and then I forgot about it. Yeah, it wins material. It wins a piece. Mule Skinner's always in time pressure. Yeah, he just wins a piece. This is game over. Zeddy took the pawn, and now white is on life support. Equal material, but the king is totally exposed. Black is, I'm sure black is clearly better still. But white got his queen more into play, you know, so that's got to help him a little bit. The endgame is we're still a pawn down. So that's not an option. I was also thinking here. Queen d3 looks decent. Black has to be, you know, on top here. It's still winning. It's not obvious winning like before, though. So he plays queen c1 check. And if king g2, rook h5. Oof. King g2, rook h5, queen g1. That's not good. Yeah, so king g2 is no good. He has to play queen f1. And now black is winning. But definitely not by trading queens. You have a draw with queen e3 check, or we can try for more. We try for more. White has all Isolani. Now white just manages to defend his pawn while threatening rook c8 check. But that's really... We've also got to watch queen h3. But even if white gets in rook c8 check, king h7, worst case scenario, seriously, worst case scenario, rook check, king h7, queen h3 check, even king g6, there's no more checks. So black is probably winning there, you know. And the point of that saying that is that the point is white. I don't think white actually has a threat in this position, even with rook c8 and queen h3. So black basically has a free pass here to do whatever he wants. Rook h5, rook g5. You're still winning. Better king position, better king safety, better structure. White is kind of coordinated now, but it doesn't save him in other respects. So queen b8 is a bad move. This is total panic. Your queen it's very active on b2. I think we need to finish him off with a rook move. Again. There is one thing though that the knight f5 might defend. So if we say we play rook g5, and this check doesn't do anything, right? Check here, queen h3 check, king g6, and black is clearly better, I guess. Still not this simple. We're winning. How? Queen b1 check, king g2, queen c2 check, king g1, queen d1 check, king g2. Oh wow, we just creep across like that. So anyway, alright. We established the fact that white is not really threatening anything. So rook g5 is still the winning move. We play queen b8. This is a mistake. And white has knight f5. Yeah. So white is staying alive now. And he's threatening rook c8 check. So be very, very careful. Neil Skinner luckily didn't walk into rook c8 check. Queen a7, king h1. He's still winning, but he's in time pressure. Queen b7, king g1, queen a7, king h1, queen b7. I mean, it's a title player who's much higher rated than you, and you're nervous and you're in time pressure. And you're not the first person to have to take a draw because of that. Winning doesn't look easy, though. You know, let's say best play, king g1. The engine is like, you got to make some subtle moves to win this game. For example, rook e5. A move that looks like it does almost nothing. You got to win slowly. Isolated pawn, isolated pawn, isolated pawn. Slightly safer king. It's not a matter of winning in 5 moves now. Maybe you pick one pawn off and you slowly increase your advantage. What was the time control? Open, I guess it was like standard 90 minutes. I assume 90 minutes for the game, plus 30 seconds. But Mule Skinner can correct me if I'm wrong. Let's go on, because that was a long analysis. I've got Redusa, and Arsenal fan, and then Snedsteg. Interesting game, though. This is Redusa. This is what, a blitz game? 5-minute blitz from online. Helioblobus. I like that. Sometimes you feel like a Helioblobus. So d4, knight f6, c4, e6. You've been playing the Queen's Indian Petrosian variation. Can you turn off, please? What's your fucking problem? Bro. Bye-bye. Freezing. Fuck this global warming. Alright. Oh, interesting. So, it's funny that your opponent played bishop a6, and I played this against you last game. And, you know, the interesting thing about this is that I've literally never played the bishop a6 variation ever. Not even in blitz. And I don't know why. Because I don't really like the bishop b7 variations that much. I don't really like the standard lines with bishop b7 and d5. Possible Arsenal fan. You know, Kasparov was the biggest promoter of the Petrosian system. I'm trying to figure out why the hell I never like considered playing bishop a6 with black. Okay, I played a lot of things, and I never had so many queens Indians. I can count on one hand the number of Petrosian queens Indians I played with black. Because I don't play that much, first of all. Secondly, I play other openings too. And thirdly, not that many people play the Petrosian system, so I've always played bishop b7. But yeah, I mean, bishop a6 is a line. So this is kind of topical. I guess I always avoided it because it was kind of theoretical. There's some sharp lines after queen c2. And maybe we'll get to see that here. So this is the best move. I think queen c2 is like the only really good move here. I mean, I don't know about e3. Let's take a look at e3 for a second. Black's strategy with bishop on a6. What exactly is it? You know, to play d5 and play a light square pawn structure where we're trading our bishop. You can see some players have played d5, but there's also c5. I don't know anything about this, theoretically. All I know is I remember seeing queen c2, c5, d5. Queen c2, c5, e4, right? Queen c2, c5, e4. So that's the question. Yeah, come to think of it, I avoided this line because it was quite theoretical. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I played a lot of other things too. The King's Indian, the Bogo. You know, I just don't have that many games here. So I remember d5 and I remember e4 both being moves. Maybe I would prefer e4. So there's court showing with black in 1993 against Mikhail Gurevich. Black actually has a decent score. Okay, so d5. This is other line. Takes. Gelfand, Kasparov, 1997. Karpov, Plievsky, 92. Okay, a lot of games. So takes, and you can't take because of queen e4 check, winning a piece. So it transposes to a kind of Benoni. But it looks like this bishop is relatively active here. If black plays d6, say, knight c3, g6. But if you play g6 right away, what can white do about it? You know, take advantage of the fact that you haven't played d6. Does it matter? Knight c3, bishop g7. Similar stuff like g3, castles. So I think that's black's best way of playing here. You know, he should double fianchetto. It's more dynamic. What black does now looks a little suspicious. So how is this going to work? Because now we're just going to like a stuffed up bishop, snuffleupagus type position. Because that is not good. Retracting that bishop back, e4. Oh wow, so you do it this way. So he has knight takes d5, queen e4 check, queen e7. So you're supposed to play e4 first. And black's position looks extremely artificial. Wow, check it out. Karpov, Lubo, Karpov, Plugievsky. They have to play queen e7. An Arsenal fan pawn sacrifice is in store here. Oh my gosh. I wonder whatever inspired him. Look, Arsenal Karpov's going to try to sacrifice his d5 pawn. Does that remind you of anyone else you've seen recently? But I mean, what could possibly go wrong in this type of formation for black? Are we surprised that something goes wrong here? Yeah. So your move is inaccurate, man. He has this trick, knight takes d5, and if queen e4 check, queen e7. That's unbelievable. Bosboom did this with white twice? He sacks his queen? Oh no. He did it 3 times and lost every game. Well, I never met Manuel Bosboom, but I'm a little worried about him. I would be a little worried about him. You know, those Dutch players, you never know, they're smoking too much weed or something. Yeah, that's crazy. Kozel Volokitin. But it looks like there's some rational players here too. Bishop g5, Salvador Alonso, Jonathan Rosen, Kozel, Topalov, Bishop e7, and now knight b5. So there's some compensation. But I think anyway, Redusa, this is a huge opportunity you're giving to black. After e4, it's like black is just in trouble. What if he tries to play g6 now? Just bishop g5? Yeah, bishop g5 is pretty strong. It's a really bad version for black. 2. What about d6? Bad Benoni. It may be the best option, though. I sort of don't trust queen e7, I got to admit. But anyway, you could just avoid that with e4. So anyway, knight takes d5. You did this. The Jonathan Rosen, Salvador Alonso attack. Okay, Kozel played it. It was played by Topalov in 89. There's a game from 82, Laputian versus Farago Ivan. So it's an older line that's known. There's some old games here. Yudasin, Yermolinsky Yermo from the Soviet Union, 1984. Can you say Soviet Junior Championship? 1984. Under 20, probably. Yermo Yudazin. Waldemir Schmidt from 1983. But Laputian, the first one, with 1982. Laputian. Petrosian. F6. That's... yeah. F6 is ugly. Given the choices of bishop e7, knight f6, and f6, apparently knight f6 is bad. Based on just the sheer number of people who have played it, which is like very, very few. Queenside castles. There you go, Arsenal fan. This is the position for you. I like bishop e7. I'm definitely playing bishop e7. Michael Adams played it. I'm there. f6, much scarier. Knight takes d5. Bishop takes d5. Bishop f4. This is the original game from 1982. But there's castles queenside. Wow. So white has tremendous compensation for the sacrificed pawn. Still black won the majority of games there. This is way safer. And now bishop e7. So it's Agdestein versus Ken Regan, 1983. That's the guy who knows everything about computer cheating, right? Mr. Computer Cheater Expert. World leading expert. So, your move is a novelty. E4. Check. And now H4. I know you like to play H4. We're down a pawn. You don't have to go psycho here, but I can't blame you for playing H4. There is H4, H5. You know, H4, H5, knight, H4, knight G6, check, resigns. Yeah, 2400 was pretty strong rating back then. But you know, the minimum rating was 2200. For men. I don't know when they changed it for women. You couldn't have a rating if it was under 2200. H4, knight C6, but 2430, yes, and I am. H5, and now the subtle knight H4. Acerbate is getting on this, so black didn't seem to have any clue about what you were doing there. He just happily going along like everything's okay. Oh my god, he has bishop H4 at the end. That's cool. So you have rook takes D7. Why not rook takes D7? Queen G5. So let's think about this logically. You play G3. It's a crushing move. Black has D5. We're totally winning. It doesn't matter. Oof. Nice. Alright, very nice attacking game. Arsenal fan, you're up next. Senstig will be last. Alright, Arsenal fan, what is this? Arsenal fan versus Nana Yesolani. No, it's Isnani. Beautiful. Oh, Arsenal sharing a loss. Okay, I'm not Ken Regan. I'm just going to warn you right now. I'm not doing investigations. Only Ken Regan can do that. He knows everything. E4, E5, knight F3, D6, D4, take, knight F6, knight C3, and now A6. So it's kind of like a Kraken. It's a Kraken Philidor, Kraken door. It's one of the houses, you know, in Harry Potter, I think. The House of Krakendor. And you handled it with a Nefedov approach. Every move is possible, but I hate bishop G5, so A4 is perfectly okay. Yeah, restraining that B5 seems like a smart thing to do. It's hard to blame him, you know, because otherwise black can play B5. Okay, the other way to play this, I'll tell you what the old man sort of did to my Kraken. Maybe you can try to blow black away with what I'm kind of surprised of is there's no F4s here. F4. Can we see F4? Speaking of the f4 Najdorf, shockingly, there's 0 games played by white with f4. Okay, a6. Who the hell plays that? You know, kind of idiot would play the Kraken. It's not really a Kraken. It's a Kraken door. But still, f4 feels like it would be one of the ways to take advantage of it. We're trying to bust him immediately with e5. There's obviously a million moves that you can play. Maybe black should play c5 and pretend to be like Mamedyarov. Then white has to choose between here and here. At least with c5 you get a little bit of space, and it's not so easy to take advantage of the backward pawn on d6. Probably black's best approach. But anyway, all right. So you played a4, which is perfectly fine. So we're following a Sebe game from 2021, mid-COVID Sebe, or just post-COVID Sebe. Sebe organizing round-robin tournaments here in Budapest still sometimes, not as much as the other guys, but he plays Philidor a lot. He and Varga and they're old friends and Vita Levente, and Sebe has mixed in Krakens too. He was black, yeah. There's Suhardo Basak versus Sebe Attila, 2021. So Attila likes to play the exchange Philidor. Clearly he worked together with Varga Zoli. And, looking at it in retrospect, I was realizing lately it's a Nimzovichian defense. Nimzovich liked to play the Philidor sometimes. And he understood both ways of playing, but it's interesting. I think it's plausible for black to play like this. But again, this case is different because, like ICT said earlier, if you go for this Mamedyarov type stuff with c5, d6 is going to be backward. If you play f4, you don't have bishop f4. But maybe here I can try to attack the d6 pawn. I don't know. So the question, if black plays c5 on you, you go here. I would normally go here, so then I could come back to d2. Not necessarily f3. And let's say black plays like knight c6. We play like bishop f4. Black plays some move. I don't know what. Arsenal fan will probably play bishop g4, but we recommend either bishop e7 or bishop e7, bishop e6, or bishop e7. But I think, even Attila didn't play c5. Bishop e7 is clearly fine. That's what he played. But these other guys, Mamedov and another guy played g6. This is very ambitious for black. That's greedy. He wants everything. He wants to play the Philidor. But he's kind of tricked you into playing a4, so you can't play any crazy like castling queenside. I don't know what you should do now. It looks like g6 is a good try. It's creative. But much riskier than bishop e7. Okay, bishop e7. So we're following the Sebe game. And here his opponent played bishop c4. Normally bishop c4 can run into trouble, but I wonder if it's not maybe decent here. Black's going to hit it with knight e5, probably. Let's see what happened in the Sebe game. Bishop c4, castles, and then white played f3. White's rating is, he's probably from India. His rating is 2359. f3, I'm starting to get a little bit creeped out. And there's actual games showing up now. There's 5 games now. As if this is some like real position. Jesus. Knight c6. I'm starting to like black. The guy castles. Wow. I don't know. I don't really like bishop c4 personally. So, let's see what you did. I was even thinking about maybe like moving the knight unprovoked. Like knight b3. Your h3. Controlling the g4 square. So, what's the problem? If black goes for c5, are you going to f3 or b3? He does play c5, but he wastes time now with the worst move ever, h6. h6 is horrible. What do you mean f3? Yeah? I don't like bishop c4. But, you know, you can't mix all these different fruits together. You know, a4, bishop c4, f3. Come on, bro. It's too much. Oh, c5, f3. c5, knight, f3. All right, I just want to mention that this sometimes is good. Because either way, actually, from f3 as well, you can come back to d2 sometimes. So from both squares you can transfer. But I think the b3 isn't a bad square either. Harder to play like something like that, I don't know. Then you'd have to play g3 or g4. It's kind of weird. But h6 is horrifying. Like he's copying you or something. That's the worst move ever. Okay, option 1 is c5. Option 2 obviously is castles. And we're going to go quick with rook e8 and attack your pawn there. Sebe Attila would play castles. But h6 is sort of dumb. Not sort of dumb, it's like very dumb. And the biggest dumbness about it is that it just wastes time. Not only, you know, is he kind of creating a target, he's wasting time. Bishop f4 looks good. I think bishop f4 looks very good. Okay, one of your ideas with h3 was to take away g4, but if you put your bishop on e3, you're going to have to protect that e4 pawn somehow later. Bishop on f4 just kind of stays out of everybody's way, and it also freezes this diagonal a lot. You know, so you make stuff like this riskier because you have pressure there built in. Plus you have e5 in some positions. It's just a very good square in the exchange Philidor. This is okay, but I mean we gotta watch if he's gonna build a pressure on e4. Maybe you can follow up with like g3, bishop g2 or something. So he plays c5, and now you can go to either square, b3 or f3. Now knight c6, and now you played bishop c4. But I think it's a reasonable move. Now if we looked at that line where the Sebe was black, there was some position where knight b4 became an idea. Where he can sort of combine ideas of d5 and attacking your c2 pawn. Okay, castles is probably a good move. Again, I only really don't like h6 for him. And now I expect the computer will probably suggest knight b4. And I don't really have any better suggestions. Now, are you threatening something? Is he threatening something? And the answer is maybe he is. Because now you have the fork trick. He has fork trick, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, d5. So now you need a good move. And what would good move be? Bishop b3. Knight d2. Does queen e2 work? Because you can pin him and win him. There are other possibilities too. Like maybe you could take here, win a pawn or something. Yeah, queen e2, okay. Queen e2. Let's take a look what the engine says. Yeah, black doesn't have an easy move here. It doesn't have a great move. He doesn't have a great move. So I'm wondering if maybe his move isn't better. Let's see. Bishop e6. I don't like that exchange for black in general, but he has no other squares for his bishop. He needs to develop. It supports d5. Taking isn't probably that great for you. You can play queen e2 and keep the tension. And I think you should, well, you should seriously consider this. It looks pretty solid for white. Yeah, I think we'll see something similar like that. You will have to watch this pawn. Guys, don't forget to donate. Support our trip. Mr. Slow donated slower than last time, $23.33. And we can also subscribe. So if Arsenal fan and Chess Zebra can be subscribers, you can too. Are you my fan? Because if you're my fan, I'm yours too. All right, Acerbate. Arsenal took. Now, you did what I would do. Well, you don't want to see him playing d5, that's for sure. So you broke him up. Well, it's a practical decision. I don't know which way he should take, but I'm sure they're not exactly equal. Or he could play like Vatnikov and go back. That's just not good. If he's going to do this, he has to try to win a pawn. I can't imagine this could be bad for you, but he does have knight d5 coming up. Yeah, queen e2 looks logical. You're threatening queen c4. Now black has knight d5. You didn't see queen c4? That was the question I faced yesterday. I think this is your move. It's just such a typical Philidor move, isn't it? Yesterday, I lost one game in my tournament on Wednesday, and my opponent, like after the game, asked me, "You didn't see queen c4, the question mark, question mark." And so I thought it was a question. But he was putting it queen c4, question mark, because it was question mark, according to the analysis engine. My move was question mark, question mark. Well, if I saw like the opponent had a crushing move, probably I wouldn't have played my move. But just saying. Queen c4, a5 instead. This looks good. He's going to play knight d5. I've had so many games like this, man. I've had so many games almost identical to this in my life. Knight e4 now. He who hesitates is lost. So Arsenal, did you consider this? Because this is not a problem. You could try to go after the c5 pawn. You know, another interesting move that you might have is b4. Oh, fuck, it doesn't work. All right, never mind. It probably doesn't work. His queen is defended by the knight on d5. No, I thought e5, pressure on e5. Okay. Yeah, this is actually quite nice. But I think maybe black will... I don't know. Try to trade knights. It would be kind of gross, but actually, if he trades here, what do you do? Serious question. Do you take on e6, or do you take with the queen on? You take with the queen here and let him keep his pawns. Queen takes, thanks, man. Thanks for the info. Arsenal's answer is Queen X. Queen X what? Like Queen X that or Queen X that? Is that the joke? Okay, funny. So knight takes c3. The joke's on me. Very good, very good. Well, you're not doing this. Okay, thanks. That's an option as well. But yeah, most people are going to play that. Okay, king h8, knight e4, knight e3. Okay. How is he going to get that knight off? I mean, how are you going to get his knight off of d5? Ultimately. Arsenal was talking about pressure here. Check this out. We almost have connect 8. If he plays like rook d8 and you play queen e2, then we shake hands. With connect 8. Very rare connect 8. The open file. You gotta have it in the back of your mind. Is it? Oh no, a Rosen trophy? Great to know. Inspiring. So here, you know, suddenly I have this... back of my mind, oh, maybe I should take with the f-pawn. That wasn't the plan, though. And I think, importantly, we should avoid this temptation to take with the f-pawn here. Because, like before, you said your original plan was pressure on the e-file. But the important thing in this position, like if you didn't have a c2 pawn, let's just say, for whatever reason, like your c-pawn was on b4, b3, or whatever, if you didn't have a c-pawn that can go to c3 and control d4, I would say you should take with the f-pawn. But maybe you can just kind of withstand this, you know, whatever, sticking this in your face, and you can kick his rook out with c3 later, conveniently, you know, and he'll never have an outpost. So he'll never have an outpost on d4. So I think this is a good move. And he plays rook d5. Logical, right? But what does it do? Nothing. So honestly, if you flip the script on him and go like queen e2, knight e2, knight c4, yeah, it's just a matter of time until we get like a 5-card pile up on e5. You're going to have to babysit that pawn on a5. We kind of wish we hadn't played a5 now, don't we? Of course, it prevents him from playing b5, but we have to babysit that pawn for the rest of our lives. a5 is annoying to defend that. So you play queen c3 now, but be careful because now you can't keep a rook off of d4. What are you doing with queen c3? Kind of a weird move. I mean, I would probably play c3 almost automatically. But I'm thinking of coming back and then repositioning my knight. You have a couple ways to do it. But knight on c4 would be excellent, actually. So queen c3. Okay, this is a blitz game, right? You babysitting the pawn with your queen now. You wanted to relieve the guard with a bigger piece. It's a classic strategy. Wow, the guy goes for exchanges. I'm not really liking this endgame for black. You know, I don't know that I would be wanting to trade pieces. You can always play f3 if you have to. Guard your knight. There it is, knight d2. Yeah, but at some point he's going to have to... He's going to have to do something active. I hate to break it to him. He might have to, like, sacrifice a pawn or something. Oh my god. Maybe these type of, you know, unthinkable sort of pawn sacrifices. His pawns are doubled anyway, so it doesn't matter if he, like, loses his pawn, really. It's irrelevant. You know, it's an extra pawn. It means nothing. It would open up his queen and bishop and stuff. I think he does this, actually. Oh, he does it later after it's not free. So I might have just played this unprovoked, to be honest. He plays bishop f6. Yeah, maybe you had to be a little more patient here. I mean, you did the right plan, but you could have prepared it more carefully. Tempting, though. So e4, he starts to get counterplay. Go back to e4, maybe. It feels like black should be okay here. But I don't think he's, like, winning. You've kind of messed up your position a little bit. I was even tempted to trade queens, but I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, honestly, the guy's up a pawn, but it doesn't look like a good pawn. What's he gonna do, you know? Yeah, obviously, knight is great on c4. But seriously, this may not be bad, surprisingly. Maybe he doesn't want to trade queens. The computer claims that black is better after queen takes g3. King g8. Yeah, I'm pretty skeptical about that. I'm not really understanding why maybe black is better, but I guess neither side is really better. It's a symbolic better for black. But if you try to win too hard, or if he tries to win, probably neither side should win. So e4, queen e3. Okay, yeah, you're an optimistic kind of guy. You could play f3 at some point, you know, later, not now, obviously. Bishop g5, not a great move. Now queen c3. I expected queen e2. You know, the light squares are your strength here. And it doesn't seem like you've really been using them. This diagonal, you know, looks pretty good. He can go queen f4. No, again. Well, I mean, I just want to point out that you can trade queens. I don't know if you consciously thought about it much, you know, but it's not like some situation where you're a pawn down and you can't trade queens. So queen c3, e5, that makes his queen worse. So congratulations to him. Yeah, I don't know if I even like e5. Now you did queen g3, bishop f4, queen g6. Yeah, I mean, he's clearly coming unglued here. Now it looks like he's actually worse, like really worse. Wow, e4 is falling. You have g3. His bishop's almost trapped, and he gives you this endgame. and you didn't take it. So this is like the pawn structure from hell. I agree, like in general, not trading queens when you have like, you know, queen and knight combo. But how exactly is black going to get out of this? 3, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 isolated pawns. And e5 is falling immediately. Well, no, okay, you have to be careful. Because like bishop g5, if you take on e5, he has counterplay with like rook d2. But you can prepare it. Let's say here, here. And even back. Only white can be much better. I think that trading queens is an option. It's a blitz game though, right? Or what was the time control? What did you say? Rapid or blitz? Rapid. This was rapid. 10. Okay. 10-0. But it's still effectively like a blitz game. Whoops. Sorry, I just closed the whole stream. All right. Learn, study. So, yeah, I mean, it depends on the time. You're probably ahead of the guy on time, knowing you. But I think the endgame is an option. And I think that you're better. Okay, you took on f5. This is also very strong. You're better either way, but okay. Keeping the queens on with a good knight and queen, you can't really say it's a mistake. I don't blame you. Depends on the time. Queen d5. Yeah. Yeah, his position is horrid. And e5 is just falling. Yeah, you got to be looking for like mates and stuff. Bishop c3. So now he's somehow indirectly defending e5. He's a tactical genius. Jesus Christ. But what do you have? Like rook e3? There's a funny variation. Rook e3 attacking his bishop. What is he going to do? He has to go to a1. But that defends... It defends his e5 pawn. Like rook e3, bishop a1, king g2. I just keep thinking like maybe there's some way. Yeah, you can play c3, right? And take out the e4 pawn. But no matter what you do, there's going to be some danger here. Or some counterplay. Always your pawn will be hanging. You know, it's not that easy to finish him off. Oh, you cannot see. Please! I cannot see. Oh, no. Oh, my God. Sorry, guys. Play, puzzles, learn. Study here. Here, I'm on the wrong window. Sorry. Please, I cannot see. You're hurting me. Alright, there. So, you went here. But I liked Mr. Knight c4. I thought rook e3. Today is Analyze Day. That's right. Bishop a1. It's still not easy to finish him off. So what's the plan now with knight e3? You're preventing rook d1. He likes queen exchanges. This is the kind of nightmare I had about yesterday's game with Kelly M. That I'd end up in an endgame like this. So eventually he got you to trade queens. You went knight c4. And he's just clinging to that pawn. But you should be able to make progress now. Rook e3. You did it next move. g5, not a great move. Oh, you played g4. But you don't need to play g4. g4 is, it's not bad. But first off, you should do this. Are you serious? You need like the g3 square? Alright. Fine. g4. King g7, rook e3, bishop d2. And now you didn't. You took. Yeah, because this is ugly. You took. Oh no. What, are you in time pressure here or something? You have a draw at will. But now you also have knight f5, a new idea. Then you'll drop your a pawn though, here. I mean, maybe we just have to accept that it's probably a draw. I think what we have here is a case of Arsenal fan, you know, not accepting the game as a draw and pushing a little too hard. However, maybe we can play for a win without risking any losings. What about this? Now clearly black has e3, but that's fine. I think this is still a little unpleasant for him. King f7, king f1. Now he has to go back. And you're going to get that pawn. So you'll be getting your pawn back for sure. Let's see, king d6, king e4, and then I guess check. Problem is if you go to f5, he has rook f4 check. It's a draw. We just have to accept that it's a draw. You fumbled around too much, you know, in a very promising situation. So what happened was what? You just kind of randomly went into this ending. That's a draw, too. But he has a pretty good king. Now, now we have to be careful. Looks like you got to calculate. Shit. Check. Maybe check. Could get quite sharp if you check him and he goes in the center and then his h-pawn is weak. So you go after his h-pawn. He goes after your pawn. You attack that, you're going to take it with check. He takes, you take that with check. And I guess he goes up to wherever. The c-pawn looks very scary. You're actually worse. So I guess this variation isn't really trustworthy either. So I don't know what the best move is here. Maybe just what you played. No, you played, what did you play? You played rook d5, but what about rook e3? The problem with rook e3 is rook a2. Okay, correct. Yeah, this is annoying, man. That's why you pushed it a little too hard. I still don't think you should be lost, though. Alright, so you sit on the 5th rank. Oh, he actually gave you this. Whoa. So he misplays it himself. He should have played king e6. Now I think you have to go to f5. It's probably a draw. But he misplays it. He plays this, allows you check and go to b6. Which is probably a solid draw. You take on b7. I think you need to take out his more dangerous pawn first. Eliminate the chance of him having two connectors. Take the b7 pawn first, then you go after the h pawn. So this is like an inaccurate move. I guess it's still a draw. You did that. Oh no. Well, it's still, I guess it's still a draw. No, you're winning now. Rook f5. Wow. Yeah, so both sides played really bad in the time pressure here. Well, his first mistake was king e5, king over. Here. He has to play king e6. It's a dead draw. All right. Yeah, that was a stupid ending for, you know, a fast-paced game, but the game is a draw. King e6 is clearly a draw. I think your safest move is rook f5 and offer a draw here. You're winning at the end. Yeah. So you actually blundered into the lost king pawn game. Yeah. Of course. You're too slow. All right. Last game. Gallardo-Snedsteg. I don't know if Snedsteg ever made it back. You're welcome, Arsenal fan. Thanks for, you know, taking the time to submit a decent game. Sethan KH has followed 2 hours ago. I didn't mention it. Dragos Mangos. Mangos Dragos. Lucas Cabezas. So we're Snedsteg and we're playing d5. Snedsteg is Mr. Modern Defense. What happened here? Knight f3, d5. e3, knight c6. So what is this game? It's a long game. Swedish league. So Snedsteg isn't playing his modern. It's the Swedish league. It's a Veresov in reverse. c4. Well, we all know black's best move now. D takes c4 is like a really dubious kind of QGA. So you have to play d4. d4 is strong and it equalizes at least. The computer says it's plus 0.0, negative 0.1. Black is actually better by like a tenth of a pawn after this move. I was just showing this to Acerbate today. It's not really an option. It's not a situation where you have any options. Like, you have to play d4. White can try tricky moves like b4, but this has been proven to be like slightly incorrect. Anyways, Snedsteg playing knight f6 now. Okay, this is maybe not that bad. Because white has played e3. And any sort of e4 will be like a move behind. You know, it's hard to argue with like c takes d. I mean, it doesn't seem like black should be given a chance to play e6. So that's the safest move for black now. It's kind of a bad Chigorin, but it's playable. I guess you could end up, you know, you could end up in a kind of Rogozin after bishop e4. So e3 isn't exactly the like most aggressive setup for white either. He plays knight c3. Sorry, that's not the game. White plays d4 immediately, and now bishop f5. But I don't trust this. You're not protecting your center, so he's afraid of ghosts over here. There's no need for a3. White should play c takes d. This is the dangerous move. Now, if you take with a knight, white has various possibilities. A3, okay, maybe. But also, for example, knight d2, threatening e4. White should be better. Damn, can you speak English at least? Can we get a quote bot for that? Speak English, man. Yeah, so CD is critical. No more submissions for today, no. Knight takes d5, a3. And I'm out of here. It's late. e6. So you got into a kind of okay position now. Instead, say, don't do this, where you leave your center like you're playing the Marshall defense. So finally we have e6. White plays knight c3 now. I mean, b4 is interesting, maybe. But knight c3 is fine. Okay. Bishop e7. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of a5. So you can see, like, b4 is the main move. Ivanchuk had this position with white once. Pawn sacks with e5. Bishop e2. Now, is white threatening, like, knight h4? So when you castle, can white play knight h4 now? And it was played, sure enough. It makes some sense to play knight h4 now. Here, f3, bishop g6, knight g6, hg6. White is a little better with the white squares, I would think. b4 is also okay. And now knight e4. This is obviously a good move. So bishop e2. And we've actually transposed to Ivanchuk's game from 2015. You know, where would Ivanchuk play at 23:30? That smells like European Championship to me. Some kind of open tournament, you know, or limited open tournament. So bishop e2. Now black plays bishop f6. And that was played in a game as well. Bishop f6 is nice because you free up e7 for your knight. Or, yeah, but you're not going to see, like, you know, Macedonian players in Gibraltar. That's, like, for spoiled, you know, privileged children and shit. Gibraltar and Isle of Man are just for, like, rich, privileged children. This is a, you know, Eastern European Balkan guy. Alright. Bishop e2. Bishop f6. And then the Skembris. Skembris against a player I never even heard of. 1982. He's got a cool name. Yuko Fatos. So, the idea is that we fall back here. Kind of like a Dutch. It's like a Dutch defense where our bishop is a pawn on f5. Castles, knight e7. Wow, Sensei playing like Skembris. And so the idea is that we can solidify our queenside and not have the knight, you know, be awkward along the c file. So it looks like black is like equalized now. Close to. So this game went exactly the same timing. Knight takes e4, bishop takes e4. And then we had, you guys know how there's Arsenal fan and Asterbait? I don't think c5 is a problem. Now there's RC1. Acerbate's new name. It's like R2D2. RC1-ol. RC1-ol. RC1-ol fan. But I mean, the guy's move, honestly, the RC1-ol fan, I mean, it is a kind of natural move. It's no big deal. You know, black's so solid here. Not an exciting position. But Gallardo decided to play bishop d3. And now this is kind of a weird move because you're trading like your good bishop for black's bad bishop. It is a very strong bishop on e4, but I think white might have like better moves. White has a lot of options, you know. There's a lot of options. I mean, I'm even thinking about like a4. Why not? Why can't we play a4, for example? Make your bishop great again with bishop a3. Yeah, knight d2, of course, is possible. Yeah, but this is very Acerbate slash RC1-ol. Robotic. This is not really better. Bishop takes, queen takes. So we're playing the Caro-Kann now. But black needs to try to be active. I mean, not even certain about taking. But otherwise, if he takes an e4, our pawn becomes very weak. So we don't really have a lot of other options. I mean, you could drop back. Let him take on g6, for example. It's an option. I don't know. But anyway, okay. We stay solid with c6. Now, like Arsenal said, is c5 a good move? It's a move, and it makes some sense. White has a space advantage, and it's hard for us to achieve counterplay with e5. But I somehow doubt that this is really that dangerous. Black should be okay. So he plays knight g6 with the intention of playing for e5. It's pretty obvious. All we need is like one more. The problem with c5 is that it makes it easier for black to achieve e5. And it looks like we can't stop it. I don't like d takes c4. So now white plays knight e5, which is strategically kind of questionable. But if he doesn't, you know, black's going to play e5. So he does this. Now, which way do we take? Because I think that both captures are possible. You can take with the knight, calmly retreat, and then, you know, break the center. You got actually two options here. It is like kind of watching the grass grow, though. Okay, bishop takes is more dynamic. But I'm a little bit concerned that our knight is... It isn't exactly a great knight. King's Indian defense. I hope you could play. b6 needs to start to be considered, but it's also double-edged. Because if you play b6, we have to watch, you know, our own structure, and you're kind of playing on white's side. f6 navigates this bishop into the game. So it's not so easy. f4. Now what? What is our plan? No b6? If we don't have b6, we don't have f6. What are we doing? a5. You know, go back a moment and consider the possibility of a5. White might have b5. You know, I'm not sure. It does feel like we're playing on the wrong side here. f6 needs to be considered. Takes. Takes. This is obviously very double-edged. Very, very sharp and possibly dangerous. But we can also block him out. I feel like we're playing the Caro-Kann. What is our plan now, though? So basically, he can't do anything. He's playing g3, idea h4, h5. And now you played a5. And we can play b5 or leave the tension. h4 is scary. Now you just block the whole queen side. This is very passive. But I'm not sure what the options you have. There is another option. You have rook a6 here. b5 for white. Takes, queen takes. Knight e7. And white will have pressure on the b7 pawn, which looks very unpleasant. We might be able to hold it together. It looks like black might be able to hold this together. Just barely. But we drifted in the middle. Starting with bishop takes e5. Let's see what the engine would have done. It likes your bishop takes e5. Wow. Knight takes e5 is equal. So bishop takes e5, d takes e5, and now h5. It's playing some crazy moves. This is the point in the game where black drifted, you know, with his queen c7. Our knight sits on g6. What is it doing? I don't understand rook d8. And we just drifted. But to me, a4 looks like a serious mistake. Now we have no counterplay, and he's going to have kingside stuff with the h4, h5. He locked the king side, the queen side, and now what? There comes the king side. Now we have weaknesses around here. Keep in mind, this guy is only like 1800. He shouldn't be like blowing Stenseg away. But you can understand why black actually lost. He got into a passive stance. You know, h5 is h5 is not going to hold. But locking the queenside was a huge mistake. a4 was a huge mistake. You should never do that here, because your knight is badly placed. You don't have a good situation on the other side either. Yeah, the computer's suggestion of queen h4 was pretty cool. But, I mean, the point is that we're going to play for light squares. The spider web of light squares. If white plays like f4, I guess, we'll do, what are we going to do? Queen g4. What's the move? Wow, knight e7 or queen h5. There was another move though. Did you see this h5? Preemptive blockade of the light squares. But it's Stenseg, you know, Stenseg brought this on himself. I mean, there's nobody that forced him to play bishop takes knight. You know, you could have taken with the knight and had a completely equal game. Here, if anything, I don't know. I can't say either side is better. White has more space, but you have both breaks at your disposal here. There's no way you're losing to this guy. But I think you have to decide if you're playing for a win or a draw. You know what I mean? And like, what you did was very imbalancing. But after bishop takes e5, you have to follow up actively, and you end up drifting to total passive. And then aggressive passive. And now you're just like worse. But your knight is really tragic. And now h5 is like insane. Can black put up any resistance here? Yeah. You know what black should do? Go to Taco Bell. When in doubt, you got to run for the, you run for the border, of course. It's good with his rook stacked on the A file. And we're going to have to take a chance. This is our only hope, you know. Obviously, white is going to get the H file. But maybe we can try to survive. It does look pretty scary. Well, actually, rook H7 isn't so good. So, he goes back. Yeah, maybe you could try, like rook B5. Rook H7. Rook takes B1. Queen takes B1. Queen G8. Queen H1. Looks like we're lost anyway. It's just too much space. Alright, man. Tough game. I see the writing on the wall here already. H5. This looks very scary. Apparently, black is still hanging on. Wow. So I was critical of H5, but it's not lost. I gave up hope on Sensei too early here. I should have more faith. So it's like a long-term sort of pawn sack. That's cool. It looks like he's actually okay now, hanging on. So he didn't really lose that stage of the game necessarily. But I mean, is black playing for a win here, or is black playing for a draw? Because again, I think you need to fucking make up your mind. I mean, at least you got to keep the draw in hand if you're going to play for a win. But I wanna stop this H5, I would think. Or at least like prepare for it. I don't trust dropping this pawn on A4. Maybe it's enough. Let's see. Oh man. You have time to think of that move. You're playing chess from another dimension. Very creative. I was thinking about, oh yeah, our knight can't move. That's a neat move. Is it possible that white is actually not winning here? Wow. Oh my god. And black lost the game. Man, balls of steel. It's not winning, apparently. That's probably what Sensei thought. Situation is very tricky. It appears, I would think, that King F7 is best. Queen F8 is a mistake. Yeah, this is still disturbing me. So if you play King F7, when he plays H5, you take, he takes with a rook. You check, and he goes rook G5. And there's F5 style ideas here. After h5, what? So this is not in the game. h5? What do you want to play? h6? Yeah, well, that's not happening. That's why I'm taking on h5. I'm getting a draw vibe from this position. It is a draw. But he probably thought he was winning. We've all been there. He plays queen h6, but now h5. Oh man. You can't allow a trade of queens in this position. So he has takes on h5, rook g3 check. Takes, rook g3 check. Maybe we can still hang on. This is the last chance. Takes, rook g3 check. King takes, queen takes h5. Now, I'm not optimistic, but needless to say, white is not losing this game. Looks like he's actually winning. Fuck. Yeah, queen f8 is an inaccuracy, but you're still okay. Queen h6 loses to h5. That's heartbreaking. So he's still okay after king f7. If he tries to play h5, you just take and you do that thing again, you know. He has to block with the rook. And his king is unsafe. White has to take a draw here. That's the bestest that they could do. He became over-optimistic, thinking he was winning, and then he's not. So he's still okay after king f7. Even queen g7. That's where you gotta know. You gotta know where your limits are. Trying to win too hard after h5, you're busted. The queen trade is an easy win. You can't stop him from penetrating. He tries to get counterplay. Two connectors. It's over. All right, man. Good game. I'll see you guys later. I'm gonna try to do a short blitz stream tomorrow at like 12 to 1:30. So thanks everyone for bringing in your games. I will be back hopefully tomorrow for a short blitz stream, hour and a half, and then simul on Sunday. Have a good weekend. I'll see you then. Thanks everyone. Astrobate, RC1. I mean, Arsenal, and everybody else. Don't forget to gift a gift sub to your friends here. We've been kind of short this week. It's been a slow week. Thanks, Kings Indian Defense. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you Friday and Sunday.